Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool to find the right size for your digging project. Visit powerplanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. Thank you for being part of the program today. We greatly appreciate you hanging around. It's time to get to garden questions and garden answers. If you've got a question, you can submit it to us two ways, several ways. There's many ways, but we're going to give you two of them. You can send it to us via email at gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com. Or you can give us a call anytime, 24/7 at 1-800-927-SHOW, 1-800-927-SHOW. Got a question about cabbage here, Holly?
Yeah, why are my cabbage transplants turning yellow?
Well, this is one of those that we talked about earlier in the program about a photograph would be a little more helpful. But my first impression, based on personal experience, would be overwatering by either you or by the rain. The reason being is it's flushed out the nitrogen in the soil, not completely, not 100%, but it's leached that nitrogen out of the soil. And to fix this, you can top dress it with some more compost around the plant. You can add a compost tea. You can water that in. That compost tea contains some nitrogen to it, kind of help fix the problem a little bit and build the microbial life up in the soil. You can use a liquid fertilizer. However, I wouldn't use a granular fertilizer for this application simply because it's not going to break down in a timely manner in which the plant can utilize it and pick it up as quick as it needs to in order to readjust the nutrients inside of the plant. So the best would be a liquid of non-organic and water it right at the roots. That would be what I would suggest with any discoloration of plants. It's typically, when you see that lack of green, mostly it's nitrogen deficiency.
Okay, another question we had come in is I took an onion that had sprouted greens and planted it. Now I'm starting to see the seeds slash flower come in. So my question is, should I cut the flower and let the onion develop more, or should I let the seeds grow?
Let the seeds grow more, because now that the onion has already developed a seed pod, the bulb will get slightly smaller, and it's already got a stalk through the root of the bulb, and you can utilize that bulb. However, it's not going to have a long shelf life because it will start, biodegrading or fall over time, because that it's not solid in the central portions of that bulb. So that we don't always recommend planting an onion that has sprouted, simply because you do not know what variety of daylings it is. If you save an onion seed from, that's a short day onion in the north, it's not going to do any good by growing it in the, a short day onion, and you try to grow it in the north, it's just going to have greens and no bulbs. So I always buy fresh seed each week, or each year whenever you're going to do the onion thing. Here's one for you, Holly. I was driving and listening to your show. I listened on WAAM 1600 Wham Radio out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. Thank you for that. I have poison ivy growing in and around both berry bushes and landscape flora. Your advertiser Chapin, some kind of sprayer that you can spot spray herbicide. I missed the website. Can you provide that for me? Thank you, Ron.
Sure. So, and we replied to him, but that would be the Chapin manufacturing. So you go to chapinmfg.com, and it's called the Weed Devil. You
can also go to Amazon and search Weed Devil, and it pops right at the top. So it's a very cool tool that it has a shield where you can just put an herbicide in the tank, squeeze it, it's battery operated, and it'll spray specifically where you want it. No blowback or drifting will occur. Next question here. It's a little lengthy, but it's got some good points in that we are going to answer and address.
Hello. I've been growing and learning from your videos and podcasts all spring, and I'm grateful for the information you both share with all of us. I have a problem with my tomato plants nobody has been able to help me with. I started around 15 Rutgers tomato plants from seed this spring, and I have planted them out in the garden now. They have been growing okay. The problem is I have no idea if they're determinate or indeterminate variety. The seed packet did not say. I have no other variable varieties to compare them to see which they resemble more. And my internet search says Rutgers can be either depending on the specific line. I'm not sure how to prune them, if I should at all, since I read removing suckers is only done with indeterminate tomatoes and will reduce production in determinate ones. If you have any advice how to keep them properly pruned or how to tell me what type they are, the plan is to let them bush out, since I'd rather have extra foliage than a stunted tomato plant. So Rutgers are that funny tomato that could be indeterminate or determinate, and unless you know, your guess is as good as ours.
The only way you're going to know what a tomato is, either determinate or indeterminate, is at the time of fruit production, and if that plant gets to a determinate height and you can visually see it stop growing, or it will continue to grow and vine and produce more and more. So there's no way of going, well, at this stage, that plant is a determinate, that stage, it's an indeterminate. And when it comes to the suckers, it depends on who you talk to and who you want to get in a fist fight with, whether or not you should prune the suckers off a tomato or not. Explain what a sucker is on a tomato for people who may not be familiar with that terminology.
Sure. So a sucker is basically an extra growth on a tomato. So you're going to have the main stem or one of the main stems, and then off of that main stem, you're going to have the branchy stem, and the sucker grows between the main stem and the branchy stem. So if you think about holding your 3 fingers up, it would be your middle finger. If you're holding up your pointer finger and your ring finger, and you're thinking of that like a tomato plant, the middle finger would be the sucker. And a lot of people do prune the suckers, especially, if they have time. We grow, like 30 some tomato plants. We don't have the time with everything else. Some people like to, some people say, oh, you must trim these. Some people say live and let live.
Well, and if you don't trim them, they will produce flowers and they will produce more fruit on the plant. So our philosophy is, if the plant didn't want them to be there, the plant wouldn't have put that outcrop on that junction of the limb to produce more tomatoes. So it's up to your decision on that. Next question here. Jonah writes in, I had these leaf spots on my tomato plants. They are black spots. They are in black pots. And could this be blight? I've got soil, but it's of organic potting soil. She did send a picture, and it doesn't matter if it's organic potting soil or not. It's a soil base, and it's going to have blight in it. Blight's in all soil, so that is what it is.
Yeah. So that, to us, it looked like early blight, and we've basically answered this question in the first segment today, but it's
maybe some people didn't tune into the first segment. So
right. So what you want to do is you want to trim the lower leaves of your tomato plants about 6 inches from the bottom of the plants and down. Then you want to take a handful of whole grain cornmeal and place it around the base of your plant. And then you would want to mulch around the plant with straw, if you have chemical-free dried grass clippings, or shredded paper. And this is going to help that splash up on those plants, on the leaves, and prevent that early blight.
Yep, that will fix it. I have an old cherry tree in the back. Oh, what? Bing cherry tree in the backyard. I have neglected to trim it for the last several years, and new shoots have begun growing up out of the larger, lower branches. Should I trim them way down and allow the new shoots to develop? They're talking about cutting the old ones that are not producing and appear to be dead. Some of the branches look dead. At this point, I'm trying to bring the tree back to life. Buds are still on the lower branches. I'm adding, he added a picture to the email and asked us what we thought. Now, the tree is on its way out.
Yeah, the tree looks sad, and
it's not because he neglected to trim it. There's other issues going on there.
It looks like it was going to die. It wasn't because he neglected to trim it. And we had a similar situation with our pear tree the last couple of years, and now it's got one branch of growth. So, yeah, if you think your tree's dying, it probably is.
Okay. Yeah, and that's you need to, and we informed him that you need to get a certified arborist, and they know. I mean, they're kind of like us in the vegetable world. They can look at a plant and go, yeah, that has X, Y, Z, and here's what's going to happen. Typically, whenever a large portion of a tree has lost life and is not producing foliage in the period of time in the summer months, it's not going to come back.
You're going to have to take that Bing cherry tree out to the back 40 and put out of its misery.
Yeah. This year, here's a straw bale question for you, Holly. This year, just like most other years, I planted peas and beans in my straw bale, and they had very poor germination. I got the seeds from a reputable seed company and put a layer of soil on top of the straw bale and with organic matter. And they did very poorly. My tomatoes and potatoes did awesome, but for some reason I only got 3 or 4 peas and a few bean seeds to germinate, to grow nicely. Any idea why this has occurred with the straw bale?
Well, what you want to do is you want to take the planting mix, a potting mix, and make a thin layer on the top of that bale, and then it will germinate into the bale at a certain point.
You want to work that soil into that top layer too, so that roots can penetrate not through just the soil, but as the soil is worked into that bale, the roots will go follow that soil into the bale, and then if the bale is conditioned correctly, which is the creation of humus inside of that bale, that's the feeding mechanism for the plants. So whenever she planted her tomatoes and potatoes in there, it was already in that humus, but the beans hit that rough straw because the soil wasn't worked into that top bit, and they just kind of petered out. They didn't do anything. So keep in mind whenever you're doing that. Joe Carson, who was a guest on our program and has several great books on how to grow garden in a straw bale, and the number one failure is I just put a bale out in the garden, watered it, and planted in it, and that's not how that works at all.
Sometimes you got to give a little help. For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.